everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube for January of 2026. And today we're going to do a WIP Parade, which is something that I haven't done since a year ago. In the past I've done one mid-year, but I just didn't feel like doing it because it's a lot of work, and I know this is going to take a while, and then it's really going to take some time to edit and get in the images and all that. So, but that's what I decided to do for this month, so that's what we'll be doing today. And the tea I'm having today is an oolong from Floating Leaves Tea, just drinking it grandpa style with the leaves right in the water, just leaving them there to steep. And I had intended to show this right after putting the water in so you could see how much the leaves expanded, but it took me a while to finish getting set up, so you've already got a mug full of leaves there. So I think to start this video off, do something a little different than I do in most of my videos. Because my channel is very small, and I figure the people that have been watching me know who I am, but I know WIP Parades bring in a lot of new people, and I just want to make sure there aren't any misunderstandings before you sit down to watch a video of however long this may be. But fuck ice, we're going to start with that. So if that's not something that you agree with, you'll probably want to move along to another channel that is more aligned. May do fiber arts crafts here, but I'm not into any of that tradwife stuff, nothing, you know, conservative. I'm very much not a Republican, and if those are things that your views align with, then you're probably not going to want to be here. My channel, I wouldn't call my channel specifically political, but I don't separate politics from what I talk about here, because things like human rights aren't politics. Everything is political. So just so you have an idea of who you're watching before you decide to spend your time here, you are now welcome to stay or move along as your spirit moves you. So we are getting into my WIPs. I started cross-stitching in 2022, and for this, I haven't been keeping like a list of the WIPs that I have around, but I have been using Hobonichi Weeks planner this year. It's the Year of the Horse one, to keep track of my cross-stitching. And I have been using Weeks to keep track of my cross-stitching ever since I first started, because I was using one to keep track of some classes that I was taking at the time, back in 2022, and then when I started cross-stitching, I started using the remainder of the weeks I had at the time to keep track of my cross-stitching. And I'm sure my record keeping isn't 100% perfect, but I was able to go back through my weeks from the past few years and to make sure I sort of found all my WIPs that were currently WIPs. And yesterday I spent some time with some little index cards writing up some information and putting them in the project bags for all of my projects, so that when I talk about them in the future, it should be easier for me to reference the fabric is this and this count and this is the floss that I'm using. And I may not have all that information for all of the projects that I'm working on, but it should be easier for me to access now. And then as I made a list of what I was working on here, I think we are at, as long as my numbers here are right, I am at 34 WIPs, which was actually 35 at the very start of the year, but I have finished something prior to making this video. So that's what I'm going to start with. And because I went through everything, I actually have my WIPs in chronological order from, aside from the finish that I'm going to show, everything else will be from oldest to newest. So this WIP, well, this finish, because it was finished by the time I was making my cards for everything, I did not make a card for this, so I do not have in front of me when I started this, but I think it was in December of 2024, but this is Julbocken from Modern Folk Embroidery. And the fabric, I believe, is 40 count mallow. I'm not remembering the manufacturer off the top of my head, just from when I was going through stuff yesterday. I know the floss is in the reds, silken colors. So I finally finished that. I had been working on this, and it was close to the end, and I was ready to get it finished, and I was able to push onward earlier this month and get that done. I talked about in my last video how my enthusiasm for stitching has, you know, kind of dropped off some. I did get back to more stitching this month. I wouldn't say everything is fully back, but I have been making progress, so we'll see how things go. But that is a finish. I will have to decide how exactly I want to fully finish this, whether it's putting it in a frame or doing some kind of a stand-up thing, because since this is more of a holiday-oriented piece, then, you know, doing it something other than in a frame may be a way to, you know, display it for like part of the year. But yeah, this is glad to get this one done and have one thing off my list and one fewer WIP, because with the amount of WIPs I have, I know how many WIPs are too much is something that's very subjective, you know, for each individual, you know, person. And I don't feel like I have a ton of WIPs, but I am at the point where I want to get some things finished. I want to cut down on the number that I have, because I have some things that have been hanging out that I don't want them to be hanging out any longer. I want to see them finished so I feel like I have more room to move on to new things. I know there's a lot of things on this list that I know I didn't touch in the past year. Some of those I'm fine with that being the case. Other ones I was like, I would have liked to have made more progress. So I think for me, cutting down, I'm not opposed to new starts this year. It's not like, oh, I can't start anything new, but I do want to cut down on the number of WIPs that I have, because I feel like for me that would be more manageable, and then I would feel like I'm making more progress on my WIPs during the course of the year. And I also think that fewer would be good for me, considering that I haven't been doing as much stitching as I have in the past. Even though I'm still, you know, making progress, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a few fewer than I have at the moment. So with that finish, we will move on to my first of my actual WIPs here, and my oldest WIP. This is, let me bring out my card here. These are small little index cards. I got them when I was placing an order with jet pens a while back. I had decided I wanted to do little information cards in my bags, and so these are little. They aren't standard size index cards. They also have like a little grid thing on the back so that you can write on them, and I just have information on it here. So this WIP was started September 19th of 2022, and it is Opening Gambit by Long Dog, and the fabric is Vintage Stormy Clouds Lugana 32 count. The floss is DMC 310, just 2/2. And I haven't touched this in, I know it's been like over a year. that is where I am at. So I have a chunk done. This, I feel like it was sort of, this was quite early on, because like I said, I think I didn't jot down, but as I was going through the past planners that I had, I think my very first finish of anything cross stitch was maybe like July or August of 2022, and this was sort of mid-September of that year that I decided I was ready to do a long dog. And so I started going. I think that I since it's been a while since I've stitched on it, I feel like maybe it was, I mean, I like how this looks with the 2/2, but I think that maybe it was a little, getting the 2 strands of floss through on this, since this is a got a bit of a tighter weave to it, even though it's a 32 count, that it was a little tricky for me, and so I was making progress, and then I think that I knew, and I guess going back to it, I will figure out exactly what my issues were. This is the first time I had ever, stitched on Lugana. I don't know that I know I have other Lugana around, but I don't think I have used it since this, because this was sort of frustrating me a bit, and I don't know if going back to it now with more practice under my belt, I'll be like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I don't know what I was having an issue with before. But I guess we'll see once I get back to it. I am not in any hurry to get this done. I think that once it is done, it will likely be gifted to a family member, but I don't have a particular timeline in which this needs to be given to somebody as a present or anything like that. It's just, it will get done when it gets done, and that may not be for a long time in the future. But here's what we've got. I know there's like back stitching that I haven't done, partially because I started doing this in Pattern Keeper, and so the back stitch doesn't show up on there. And I think when I first started stitching, I didn't realize that. But yeah, at some point I will go back and add in the back stitching, but I may wait till I've got a lot more done. I forget what percentage I am at for this, because I did not jot that down, and I did not bring my tablet in here in which I'd be able to look that up. But I don't know that I will stitch on this anytime soon, but it is a WIP that I certainly continue to keep going with, whether that is this year or not. I would hope that I would touch it sometime this year, but also I am not in a hurry to do that, and I think I have other things on my list that I would like to get to before returning to this. But that is WIP number 1. Next on my list, and if you haven't been able to tell by now, none of this stuff is ironed. It's all going to be wrinkly. That's just the way it's going to be. This next one was started on June 12th, 2023. And this is Reflections on a Grecian Urn by Ink Circles. The fabric is Muddy Puddles 28 count linen by Bestitch Me, stitched 2/2, and the floss is DMC 310 and Silken Colors in Autumn, Twilight, and Pumpkins and Black Cats. So let me tell you a bit about this one. I've got, I think I'm about halfway done on this. Here we go. And I think the other thing that as I go through some of these older WIPs, I don't stitch on a lot of 32 count or 28 count anymore. These days I mostly go for a 40 or 46 count linen, or if it's a if I use Ada, I prefer like in 18 or 20 count on that, but my preference is for linen over Ada, but sometimes stitching on Ada is a nice break for the eyes. So this is where I am at on this. The story behind why I am stitching on this is, well, one, I just like the design. Two, in college I was a classics major, so Greek and Roman, although I preferred studying Greek stuff, mythology, that was stuff that was up my alley. Although, it was not something that was in my head at the time, but I have heard, more recently that classic-based, studies are things that people that are into, white supremacy and dominance of the Western civilization and things like that, those are some of the people that are into classic stuff nowadays, and that just it makes my stomach turn. But that was not the reason I was studying that. It was because I found it interesting, and because of a teacher that I had in high school that was a great teacher, made all, she taught us both English and history, and her classes were always very interesting. She had traveled to a lot of places that she talked about. She had, slideshows from visiting different countries, including Greece, that I didn't, keep up with her in any way after I, kind of moved on from high school, but I knew that she had wanted to move to Greece to retire, and I understand that she did, and she has since passed away. And after I heard that she had passed away, I knew about this pattern. I don't know if I had owned the pattern yet at that point or not, but I decided that I wanted to stitch it. And I went with, this, I think this fabric was something that I had on hand, and even though it may not have been the perfect match, I was looking for something that sort of gave that Greek pottery feel, and something that was more, kind of orange redware, like, may have been a better fit, but with what I had, this was a good match. We've got up here, the octopus, scorpions, we have some soldiers here. I am not 100% certain what animals these are, and I know it says Grecian Urn, but this makes me think of the wolf in the Romulus and Remus statue, which is obviously Roman and not Greek, but that's where we are at on this. So this is one that I would like to put more time into finishing up, particularly because I'm already this far on it, and with it being the type of thing where with this fabric, it isn't something that I particularly go to as far as count these days. So I would like to kind of get this one wrapped up. So that's kind of on the short list for things I'm thinking about, putting a little more effort into focusing on. So that is project number 2. And I am not talking about my project bags in this because I'm trying to get through everything. I think in a past WIP Parade, I talked about project bags more. I'm sure that I've added some bags since that video, but if you happen to see something and want to know more about it, just leave a comment and I can get the info for you. All right. Next up is WIP from July 5th of 2023. This is Spirits of the Dead by Modern Folk Embroidery. The fabric is a 32 count linen by Picture This Plus. The color is Ancient. Stitched 2/2, and the floss that I am using is Silken Colors Smokestack. And this is where I am at. So I don't have a lot left. It's I had to finish the quote. There's more border, and there's stitching at the bottom where it's a band of black, and the text is in reverse. So I'm stitching the background and not the letters. And so this, like the Grecian Urn, is one that I would like to put time into and just getting it done. Because I like it, I want to have it done, and I want to move on to other things. And the background on this that I have talked about before is that the pattern that Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery did for this has kind of two versions. One where, like I'm doing this up here, this is the stuff that's stitched, and then the background is the fabric. There's also a version of the pattern that has it reversed, where you're stitching the background, and this design, here would be the fabric showing through, sort of depending on whether you're stitching on light or dark fabric. When I started this, I got about 400 stitches into it or so before I realized I was stitching the opposite version of the pattern than the one that I had intended to use. So I had to rip out 400 stitches and start over again. Well, I did not have to, but I chose to because this is the way that I wanted to do it. So, yeah, this again on the short list of things that I want to focus on putting time and energy into, just to wrap it up, get it all off the plate, knock another one off the WIP list, and kind of free myself up for other projects. This is one where I write it down. That is Spirits of the Dead. Every time, particularly if I have the name abbreviated, I want to call it Souls of the Dead, but it's Spirits of the Dead. And that's that one. This next one, I was honestly shocked at where this fell on my WIP list, because I knew it had been around for a while, but I thought it was newer than it was. This is Dragons of Sumatra by Ink Circles. I started it July 30th of 2023. I thought it was more recent than that. The fabric is Meadow by Bestitch Me, 40 count linen. I'm stitching it 1/2, and the floss is Silken Colors Lizard Back. Although ultimately I may decide to add in some bits of other color as well. See, what I have done so far is just border starting from the top left. And as I have mentioned before, I got this fabric when I was placing, I think, my very first Bestitch Me order. Now, and I guess knowing that, maybe it makes sense that this WIP is as old as it is. For some reason, I thought it was newer. But when I placed that very first order and I was deciding what fabrics I wanted, I was picking from their ready-to-ship colors, and I had most of what I wanted. I was doing just a search back through, kind of everything that was listed again, just to make sure there wasn't anything else that I wanted. And I looked at this and decided, oh, maybe I will pick that up as well. And so I did, and then after the fabric arrived and I was looking through and kind of deciding what I was going to work on, this fabric that was sort of a last minute addition before I placed my order ended up being the first thing I used for a project, because I thought that lizard back floss looked quite good with the, here, let me move my tea slightly. Actually, I will take a drink of my tea. It's had some time to cool off a little, so I'm not burning my mouth. So that is where I'm at right now. I really like that green and how it looks on that fabric. Move some of this other stuff I have here out of the way as well. All right. So this is one where, you know, it had sat for quite a while. Last year at some point I picked it up. I did make some progress on it. I think I don't remember if I did any more down here, but I know that I had worked on a chunk up over here and made some progress. Obviously, I still have a long ways to go on this, but every time I work on it, I am happy to be working on it. Hopefully, I will be putting in more time on it this year, but it's not just because I do have, you know, kind of so much more to do on it. Although I do want to work on it, it's not top of my list to, you know, charge ahead and get it finished up. It will get done when it gets done, but it's one that I quite like, and I will be very happy the day that I actually do get it done, because this is one I will definitely want to frame and get up on the wall. I am somebody who definitely falls more under the process stitcher category than you know, somebody who really wants the finished object. There's, you know, plenty of things that I work on that, as to whether they actually make it up on the wall or displayed in some way, is going to be a bit of a toss-up. But I enjoy the process of stitching and, you know, kind of watching the image come to life. So, all right, so that was number 4. And yeah, this is, I'm on number 4 and we're that far into filming. This is going to take a while. Number 5 on the list is one that I definitely intend to be spending more time on, and in fact I have been spending more time on it this month. I don't know if I touched this at all last year, but it kept cropping up in my mind because I knew it had been sitting there a long time. It really isn't that big of a piece, and I just, you know, I'm like, if I just spent some time on it, I would have it done. And this also falls under the category of, you know, fabric count and such that I am not normally, you know, gravitating towards these days. But this is All Treats, No Tricks by the Witchy Stitcher, started August 28th of 2023. Everything in this I'm using, I got this as a kit from the Witchy Stitcher. It was a collaboration, and the items in the kit were, the fabric was by Fox and Rabbit, a 28 count linen called Fossil. The floss is all Cottage Garden threads that I think were done specifically for this collaboration. I am not 100% sure if they were available separately. I jotted it down here. There's a variegated floss, which I know has a name, but I don't have it noted on here. The other colors are Ghost Sheet, Putrid Purple, Charred Pumpkin, Black Ichor, Swamp Water, and Ashes to Ashes. And here, still in the hoop, because I was just working on that recently. And so all these characters here in the center are now done. I am just working on the border, and that border portion at the top was part of what I did yesterday. When I picked this up, over here, the second one of the flowers and this fellow here are all things that I added this month, including like the little bats and kind of, you know, little background things up here, as well as the border. So I know I've put in over 1,000 stitches on this this month, and now I just have to finish the border. So I am hoping to you know, move forward with that and get this one done and off my list. I quite like I mean, I always like cottage garden threads. I think you know, the links, the pre-cut links that they are maybe a bit shorter than I would do. Well, I'm sure they're significantly shorter than what I cut stuff to if I'm, you know, just cutting a length of floss myself. That said, because they are shorter links, I find that they tangle a lot less, because I always want to go for that longer length and I know it's going to tangle, and I do it anyway. But you know, it's been nice working with the cottage garden thread. And, you know, I would say sort of my only gripe is that the gray, the ashes to ashes, and the black are at least of the ones that I got in my kit, they're close enough to each other that, you know, if there was a little bit more of a contrast between the two, so they stood apart a little bit more, that would probably be my preference. Like this little skeleton fellow here, the main part of his top is the ashes to ashes gray, and then the arms are the black, and there is a difference, but it's hard to see. I think it looks fine overall, and like I said, I'm certainly going to finish that, but if I had to nitpick something, that would be my only gripe. But as I was working on this, I considered just stopping once I got all the characters in the center done, but it's like, you know, the variegated floss is really only used in the border, and I'm close enough to having it done, I can just plow ahead and get it done. So this is WIP number 5, which hopefully will be done quite soon. All right. Another one where I hadn't realized, I guess, how long this had been a WIP is the Bivas Sampler by Marumi Designs. Started September 1st of 2023. Did I have these out of order? No, that was in August that I started that one. Yes, this was September 1st, 2023 that I started this. It is on 18 count Ada by Bestitch Me. Color is Sand Dollar, and the floss is Silken Color Wood Smoke. And had a nice start there, and I just haven't got back to it. I think this is, if it's not the full width, it may be close to the full width. And I got this up here, and then you know, just hadn't gotten back to it. And with the amount that I've done on this, I do want to finish it, but it's not at the top of my list to make progress on, just because some of the other older ones, want to get those ones just fully finished and done. So yeah, we've got some different animals in the bands up there, and the main kind of a focal point of this, which I am far from getting to because I know it's down in one of the lower areas, is a bat. And I understand that is why it's called the Bivas Sampler, because I believe Bivas means bat. So I had to get back to eventually, but perhaps not just yet. with bringing out a piece like this. Because we think of, you know, on top of everything else going on in the world right now, obviously everything going on in Iran right now as well. And I just hope that eventually in 2026 we get some better news going on, and obviously doing things like this to have some joy and not, you know, feel, you know, fully defeated about the state of the world. But yeah, it's obviously not the sort of things that we would like to have going on right now. I just hope that things will get better. I know they won't get better without, you know, things in various things here in the U.S. or overseas. All sorts of stuff isn't going to get better without people putting in hard work. But maybe we'll have some good news this year. I don't know. I will keep doing my stitching in between other things to keep myself positive. This next thing, number 7 on the list, Birds to the Boughs by Lindy Stitches, started on September 2nd of 2023. Fabric is 32 count Belfast Whisper linen by Zweigart, stitching 2/2 using all the called for DMC. This I don't work on all the time. I know I did make a chunk of progress on this last year. So we've got that bird there, got some border up there, some back stitching, some of this branch. This, as I've talked about in previous videos, I made a mistake on this. I made this part too tall and then started doing that. I wasn't decided, I'm not ripping that out. It can stay as it is. There will be a larger space up there. Depending, once I get more done with how that looks, I may go back and stitch maybe, you know, some little dots or something up there just to, you know, fill the space a little bit more. We'll see. I'm prepared to do that, but I decided that this is not something that's going to get ripped out and redone. I just don't want to do it. So this is a piece that, you know, when it comes to cross stitching, some people like cross stitch, some people don't. Some people appreciate handmade gifts, some people not so much. When I started this, I intended to do this. I liked the pattern, so I wanted to stitch the pattern. I figured I would do it in honor of my parents, maybe give it to my mom because my dad, you know, passed on a number of years back. But my mom isn't somebody who is super into cross stitch, so I am doing this in honor of my parents, but keeping it for myself. So that's what's going on with this one here. Again, 32 count. So not the count of fabric that I gravitate towards these days, but I like how it's coming along. I continue to work on it from time to time. Generally, if I don't feel called to pull it out at other times, I'll often pull it out around Father's Day or my dad's birthday, or around, you know, their anniversary. I don't work on this all the time, but I try and grab for it at certain times of the year and at least make a bit of progress. Obviously, I've got quite a ways to go to finish it, but eventually it will be done. Okay, that was WIP number 7. Make sure I get that card back in there after I went through all the trouble to make them. This next WIP is it's Alice in Wonderland by Al Forrest, the tricolor version. And I started this September 5th, 2023. I got a kit, and I'm using the fabric in the kit and the floss in the kit. It's the tricolor version, not the full color version, so these are the 3 colors that are used. I think the full color version is gorgeous as well, and but for me, I thought that the tricolor one would work for me for what I wanted. Now, this is a small little start, and I know exactly why it's a small little start. Well, I'm not certain of this fabric. I believe it's a 32 count. It makes me think of French Country Mocha. I don't know whether that is the case or not, but that is all I have done. I guess off with her head, because it's not on yet, and there's part of a flamingo there. So we have start of the Queen of Hearts, and I think this was towards the middle, and I started here because I think I had heard things about the fabric with the kits not having like really huge margins on it, and so I wanted to make sure I was starting more towards the center and working out instead of, you know, running out of fabric at some point. The biggest issue why I have not been able to do more on this, well, been able to, why I have not worked at doing more, is that the pattern, and I believe this is one of the Alforest patterns that's free. But I got the kit because I wanted in particular the floss and stuff. And I don't know about ordering from Alforest currently. I think that when I got my kit, I ordered from someone who was selling it who already had the kit here in the US, so I wasn't trying to get it from overseas. But the PDF pattern, since I use Pattern Keeper for almost everything, and I, you know, if the pattern is not something I can just pull into Pattern Keeper, I try and jump through the hoops to get it into Pattern Keeper. And I got this pattern into Pattern Keeper, but I'm not fully happy with it, and it's not in there really well. It's not the way I have it in there. It doesn't fully kind of match up with the grid I went through. I jumped through all the hoops to try and get it to work, and maybe I should revisit that, because I 100% know for sure the reason I have not worked on this more is the state of the pattern in Pattern Keeper. So maybe, because if I remember correctly, the pattern is broken up over, you know, multiple pages. Maybe it was, I don't know if it was a free pattern that was released in sections as a stitch along when it first came out, which I think was before I was cross stitching. But because it's all on, you know, separate pages, and the size of, you know, kind of what's on each page doesn't match up. It's a way where bringing it into Pattern Keeper, it's not going to take everything and just stick it together into a nice, you know, pattern for you very easily. So maybe I just need to go in there and put in each section of the pattern individually and just work it like that. So that's exactly why my start is small. I do want to do this eventually. Because I only have that much, I have toyed with the idea of restarting it on a different fabric with a smaller count, but I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a ton of time invested into this so far, so we'll see. This is something I do want to do, but it's not at the top of my list to get done right away. So whether I touch it in this coming year or not, I don't know. We'll see. And whether it continues in this form or ultimately ends up slightly different, that remains to be seen. But one day it will be done. If I redo this on another fabric, I'd probably do it on a 40 count, maybe a light gray. Well, I'd have to look because it would need to be a gray that was not so dark that this color couldn't be seen, but also not so light that the lighter color couldn't be seen. So I don't know. Things to think about. But that is a problem for me for another day. Okay. That. So that was Project 8. Project 9 was one that I was a bit surprised, again, sort of when this was from and how little I've done. I think with long dogs, my ambition is far higher than the amount that I actually stitch. This is Saga by Long Dog, which was started on September 16th of 2023. The fabric is 40 count Tyco linen by Picture This Plus, stitched 1/2, and the floss is Silks for You PR 124. And this is a lot of fabric. I have not cut anything down to size. There it is. There you go. The floss is sort of variegated between a dark purple and a teal. And that's all I've done. This is, I know at the time that this pattern was released, it was the largest pattern that Long Dog had done. And I dove right on in and then didn't get very far. So that is where I am at. Once again, this is one that, do I want to have this done someday? Yes. Is it top of my list to work on in 2026? No. Because there's other smaller things I can clear off faster. So while I could make a dent in this, I'm not getting it done anytime soon. I mean, even if I focused on this entirely, with the amount that I stitch, I don't know that I would finish this year. So, yeah. I don't know that I've ever, since I've started stitching, I don't think I have actually finished a Long Dog. I have a number of them in progress, a number that I want to do. I have plans for a number of Long Dogs, how I want to, like, thought about how I want to do them. There's the one where, I'm blanking on the name, but it's the one where there's a border and there's the 9 spaces and there's there's more than 9 little patterns that can go into those spaces, and you can pick the ones you want and arrange them how you want. I want to do that one someday. I know what floss I want to use. In fact, I think I have the floss that I want to use. But with everything else that's on my plate, I'm like, you can't start that right now because you've got too many other things and you're not going to finish it anytime soon. So someday. Next this is Strawberry Bird by the Blue Flower. Where is my card here? Strawberry Bird by the Blue Flower started October 3rd, 2023. Fabric is Bestitch Me 40 count linen in grog. Stitching it, I think, I didn't get that jotted down. Is this 1/2? It must be 1/2 if this is 40 count. And I am using the called for floss from the pattern. At least I think it's all the called for. I don't have any notes that I did anything different, so let me make a note that this is 1/2. I forget how many stitches are in this. Usually I've got a chunk of a start there. I don't have either of the birds in it, and I got the pattern because I like the look of the wax wings, and that's why I wanted to do this pattern. But I haven't actually started on any of the birds yet because I wanted to make myself get through more of the vines and leaves and whatnot before the reward of working on the birds. So that is where I am at. This is one that, you know, I think I have more left to do. I think there's actually more left to do than I imagine there to be. But this is one that I think about quite a bit. It pops in my mind like, oh, I should work on that. I want to get that one done. I want to get that one framed. This is one I want to have framed and put up when it's done. But I just haven't gotten back to working on it. So this is one I do want to, I don't know that it will get finished this year, but do I want to work on it this year? Yes, I do. So plans for that. So that is number 10 of my WIPs. And I think that's the only blue flower piece I have in the works. I know I have a number of blue flower patterns that I want to do, but I've managed to keep myself from starting too many things. What is next? Oh, I know what this is. Okay. My card here. This is another one from designed by Miriam of Barumi Designs. This is a sal that she did, and I started this December 19th, 2023. This is from Yalda to Nowruz. The fabric is a Bestitch Me linen, and oh, I need to I think this is a 40 count lunar. I think it is. I don't know that I have the... Do I have the card from the fabric in here? Let's take a look. Because I would love to know for sure. But oh, yes. 40 count lunar. And actually, that Alice in Wonderland pattern, if I restart that, I might want to do it on this fabric, but I would need to check it against the floss to be sure. I am not very far on this at all. This is, I think this should be stitched 1/2. Right now, I've just got DMC 310, but this is a band sampler. So I've just got part of the top border done. There are bands, and in some cases you have choices of what pattern to use for each band. And I know I want this to be, even though I'm doing this in 310 up here, I want the bands to be like, do a different color for each band. And I've gone back and forth on what colors to use. It's something that I've kind of mulled over in my head and never fully settled on something, and then I was distracted by other things and never got far enough on the border to actually have to make a choice on what colors I was going to use for the rest. So do I want to do this one eventually? Yes. Again, is at the top of my list of things to work on in 2026. probably not. But again, this is one that now and then wanders through my head, and like, oh, I should get back to that. I should figure out what colors to use. Let me take some tea here because I feel my voice getting a little scratchy. And sitting in here are things like I have quite a few different cottage garden threads, were things where I was trying to decide if I was going to do, you know, kind of colors like this. I've got more in there, but I had various bright colors. Got a rainbow one. So I had things in mind for this, but never fully settled on what I wanted to do. Oh, here's some more. There's another rainbow one and other bright colors. So are those for sure the colors I'm going to use for this? I don't know, but eventually I will decide. Okay. Almost done with this pile of WIPs so I can bring in my next pile. This I 100% did not touch last year. This is No Time Like the Present by Modern Folk Embroidery. Started at January 1st of 2024. It was the stitch along for 2024. It's a large piece, and I vastly overestimated my ability to commit that much time to one piece throughout the year and be happy about it. I like the pattern. I like I would say I mostly like the choices I made for this. There's some things as far as contrast that maybe I would have done things slightly differently. But I just, the amount of stitching on one piece was more than made me happy to keep up with the stitch along, and I kept up for a bit. I started to fall behind, and then I was like, screw it, I'll finish it, but not today. The fabric is by Bestitch Me 40 count linen through the stones, stitching 1/2. And the floss colors are Silken Colors Chestnut and Silken Colors Snow Cream. This, now that I'm looking at it again after some time away, I'm happy. I'm happy with my choices. So I got this part at the top. I started in at the top of that clock. Didn't make it far enough down to get to the actual numbers. Got my needle minder there right in the middle. I don't know. I feel like when I was working on it, maybe there was a time or two I had to frog some stuff, but I don't think I made any mistakes that were too major. I left in, but you know, I was kind of happy with what I had done, but it got to be too much. And there were other things I wanted to stitch on, and yeah. It won't be in this video because I finished it like back in September of last year, but I did the stitch along with EJ and Sheila of the Sunshine Stitchers for Put a Bird on It, last year. And I forget what the stitch count on that was, but that was one where, I was able to keep up with that and finish that kind of ahead of the, sort of end date, although, certainly nothing making you finish it by that date. But that was like the one I think that's the only sal I've done where I actually not only kept up with, but finished it and finished it ahead of time. So this is in the category of, you know, do I want to finish this eventually? Yes, I do. Am I going to pick it up in 2026? Probably not, you know. Eventually, but not at the top of my list to work on right now. And, you know, I like how it looks. I like the project. It's a daunting amount to still have left, and it's not calling to me right now. Let's see. And the last one before I need to grab my next pile. This is a project that I don't know that I'm ever going to finish sort of my full plans for this. I want to at least finish what I have started. This is I've finished 2, started a 3rd. There is intended to be a 4th. This was the first page that I was going to do of Lindy Stitch's airmail patterns with the birds on it. I was going to do all of them and make it like a book of stamps and actually have, you know, like pages and make a book. This is as far as I've gotten. I have each page. I have kind of my own little feather border here going around that to make it sort of look like airmail, like the red, white, and blue on like airmail envelopes. So I did this first, that second, working on that one now. I thought I had spaced this so that there would be like, you know, one space between these and between those, but then I realized with the amount of space that I left, they were going to be butted right up against each other, which I was not entirely happy about, but also I was certainly not motivated enough to start all this over. That wasn't going to happen, so that just is how it is. I want to at least finish these 4. January, February, March, and the April that will go there eventually. I forget which bird is January. I think April is a dodo. I didn't take out my little card. Where's my card? The fabric is 40 count white clay linen by Fox and Rabbit. Stitching 1/2. The floss I think all the floss is called for. My start date was January 4th of 2024. These patterns came out over time because of how I wanted to do this. And I wanted to kind of finish this page first. And I think the April pattern was the one that came out very last for all of the months. So part of when I was most motivated to work on this, I wasn't ready to kind of start in on everything because of how I was going to group everything up. And then my enthusiasm has sort of waned somewhat, and I do want to finish this because I've already gotten this far on it, but whether I will actually finish the rest, remains to be seen. Because like I said, I had plans to do this as an actual book. I'd sort of thought about what other patterns I wanted to pull from to make, like a cover, whether I was going to do anything that sort of labeled, that had a list of everything and what birds were in the various stamps. I had these grand plans, but I don't know that I'm actually gonna fully follow through. We'll see. I should get back to this because obviously each stamp isn't all that big. So it's sort of a little small that I can work on and have the, you know, dopamine of having a small little finish. Yeah, it's something I will get to, but it's not on my immediate list of stuff to get done right away. All right, that was WIP 13. And with that, I'm going to take the stray needle and get it put into a bag here so it's not wandering around. And be right back with my next batch of WIPs. All right, we are on to WIP number 14. And this was started February 10th, 2024. This is another Modern Folk Embroidery. I think that Modern Folk Embroidery is the designer I have the most WIPs in progress for. This is, Here Be Dragons by Modern Folk Embroidery. This was started in this was my pattern I was stitching for Year of the Dragon, and I did not get all that far. The fabric is Bestitch Me 40 count linen in catacombs, stitching 1/2, and the floss is Silken Colors Cerise Noir. I got as far as almost finishing the border along the top. I really like the combination of the color of the floss and the color of the fabric. I do want to, finish this. Again, not at the top of my list to work on right now, but I do want to do this. The other Modern Folk Embroidery I want to do, and it's on the smaller side, but I just haven't let myself start it yet, is Got the Morbs, and I have that pattern. I want to work on it. I might even want to do it on this fabric with this, their floss, but yeah, that's one that's been hanging out, and every time I think about it and how I want to stitch it, I think, work on one of those other Modern Folk Embroideries you haven't finished yet. So yes, this will be done eventually. Probably not picking it back up right away. I also like the other more recent dragon pattern that I think was released in Year of the Dragon, and I can't remember the name of that one. I like that one as well, but again, I've got other things to finish before I start yet another Modern Folk Embroidery. But yeah, this is, again, one that I like, but just for various reasons haven't really worked on it all that much and need to get back to it. I also should look and see what the overall stitch count on this is, so that I can have an idea of how much I left. I know that's a big border going around it, and I know there's obviously the dragon in the middle, but then I think there's if I remember correctly, there's the dragon at the middle, and then maybe some little things around the dragon, but there's a lot of, kind of space in there. Yeah, I still have plenty left to do on that one. Okay. All right. Next is Arcana by Uncanny Kari. Started on April 7th of 2024. The fabric is 32 count Grandpa Sleeve by XJU Designs. I'm stitching this 1/1 on this 32 count, and the floss is Silken Colors Fading Ink. I have a little bit of a start on this, and then didn't get back to it. I think this pattern is just available to get now at the time. I think at the time it was first released, you had to be in the Patreon, and once I learned about this pattern, I joined the Patreon time in order to get it, and I made this start. And there are there are little symbols for each of the major Arcana tarot cards, and I've only gotten as far as the Fool and the Magician, and then have plenty more to do. But I thought it was kind of a nice twist on that theme, where I'm also in the Witchy Stitchers Patreon, and you know the whole tarot card series that she did, the kind of the Lisa Frank style, goth but make it Lisa Frank style of cards that she did, and she did the whole major Arcana, and so I have all those patterns, but I haven't started that yet. I may do like a couple of those eventually, but it's not kind of on my list right now. But what I liked about this was, instead of having, individual cards for each one, each card was kind of distilled down to just some very, distilled down to sort of the essence of the symbols there, and going through. So haven't gotten that far, and the 1/1 on 32 count was kind of a little tricky to get the stitches sitting the way that I want them, but I'm happy with how it's coming out. I think I was trying to do stuff with what I had in stash when I wanted to start, and I really liked this fabric, but I didn't want to do it as big as it would be if I was doing this over 2 on 32 count. So I'm happy with the size. I just need to get back to it eventually. When that will be, I'm not quite sure, and I have to look back and remember exactly how big this entire piece is. But yeah, one of those ones. I got it. I kind of jumped into it, got this far, and then for whatever reason in the shuffle it got set aside, and I didn't get back to it. So yes, I want to work on this. Exactly when that will be, I am not certain. Okay. Another Marumi Designs. Guess the question is, do I have more modern folk embroideries going, or more patterns from Marumi Designs? I'm not sure. This is Mellow the Phoenix by Marumi Designs, started April 30th, 2024. Fabric is 36 count linen by Banana Oil, stitching 1/2 and using Cottage Garden threads, color Gilt as the floss. You'll notice as I go through kind of more of these things, you'll see more Banana Oil fabrics. I think Banana Oil has some lovely bright and colorful fabrics. I saw this fabric in the Etsy store, and I liked the fabric. I like a lot of Banana Oil fabric, and because I have a lot of stash around, I try, when I'm looking at stuff, to look and say, oh, I really like that fabric, but what am I going to use it for? So I'm not just continuing to add to stash. Although with Banana Oil, because every fabric is unique, if you do see something on her Etsy that you do like, you will have to snag it, because once it's gone, it's gone. But that's as far as I am on this. Last time I touched this was last year in September. I don't think I actually stitched on it on the exact Earth, Wind, and Fire day, but I did make some progress on this for Earth, Wind, and Fire day. And I will continue to work on this. When I'll pick it up next, I'm not 100% sure, but it's coming along. I like the combo of this fabric and floss, and like I said, when I saw this fabric, I really liked it, and I was thinking, what do I want to use it for? And it's like that Phoenix pattern, and so that's what it's being used for, and I am quite happy with it so far. And this is another one where I don't remember the exact stitch count, but if I just put in, pick up the card I dropped. If I just make an effort and put in a chunk of time to work on it, I can make some significant progress. That was WIP 16. Next up, this I haven't touched in quite a while. This is Chameleon by Carolyn Manning. Started this on May 4th, 2024. The fabric is a 20 count black Aida, stitching 1/1 with the called for DMC. I got this far. I worked enough to kind of get it into a square, and then I haven't picked it back up since. And this isn't one of the, this is I think one of the ones on the smaller end of the Carolyn Manning designs, and I don't know why I haven't gone back to this or the other one that I will be showing here shortly, because I really enjoy, working on this. It's a change of pace from things, because it's certainly not, confetti, and it's a geometric image, and so it's sort of nice to be able, when you work on it, and you're kind of filling out the block you need to fill out, and it's a nice and calming stitch. And why I haven't picked it back up again, I couldn't tell you. Because these are full coverage, I'm using Aida because I figured that, one, it would be easier to do the stitching on. The Aida is going to get covered up by the pattern anyway, and that my plan with this or any of the Carolyn Mannings that are like this is that if I frame them, kind of framing it close to the edge of the design, so there's not a lot of the Aida fabric showing, or if I was going to try and make a project bag myself, maybe using it to decorate a project bag, but we'll see. I am quite happy with how this looks so far. I have a lot of Carolyn Manning designs, because sometimes I think when I got this pattern, it was when she was having a sale on her website, and I really liked the look of her patterns, and so I bought a bunch of them, and I have them in my stash, but they're full coverage and they take time to do, so how quickly I will be getting to any of these, I am not sure, but this one being the smaller one, I have another one to show later, but I will probably focus on this one over the other, just because it's smaller, but it's coming along. It will be done eventually, but we will see when I next work on it. Although, that said, even though this one is smaller, I might actually work on the other one sooner. We'll see. Okay. Next up. This is Dark Golden Delicious by the Artsy Housewife. Started this May 7th of 2024. The fabric is 36 count Evil Queen linen by Bestitch Me, stitching 1/2, and the floss I am using is the Victoria Clayton silk pack, so that color conversion for this. This is a 36 count, which I think maybe the only other 36 count fabric I'm using right now is the banana oil for Mellow the Phoenix. It's not kind of the go-to count, but I think in particular with this, I liked this color, and when I was purchasing from Bestitch Me, this was the count that I think this might have been the highest count that was available in the ready to ship at the time that I purchased. So I know last year I did make some progress on this by I think I worked down over here and got the house started. So I have quite a ways to go. But whenever I pick this up, I really enjoy working on it. And the fabric, I think when I decided I was going to do this and I got the silk pack for it, I pulled out what I had in stash, and I think the fabric I had initially intended to use was maybe a 40 count, so it was the count that I would normally want to use. But the color was, when I compared the color of the fabric to the silk, I decided that this won out over the other one. And I'm happy with how it's looking so far. No immediate plans to pull this back out and work on it, but I'm sure at some point in the coming months I will pull it out and make some progress, because I do enjoy it, and I think this is one that once I have worked on it enough where sort of the end is in sight, that will be enough for me, that will give me motivation where I'm like, I'm going to work on this and get it done. This isn't to that point yet, but eventually it will get there. Okay. This next one I have not touched haven't touched this in the last year. I thought about UFOing it, haven't done it yet. It's still sitting in the hoop. This is on a small piece of Picture This Plus 40 count pewter linen, and it's a small piece, and it was during a time that I think I was ordering some stuff from 123 Stitch, and there was some things I was ordering with certain projects in mind, and then I was just looking through the fabric and snagging small pieces that were, inexpensively priced of various fabric, figuring I could use it for some, small things, and it was a way to find out if a fabric was, something that I liked. And so I grabbed it for this. And all this was something where I started charting out some of the lyrics to the song BBL Drizzy back when the Drake and Kendrick Lamar battle was going on, and that's all I've done. I have some little icon things I want to put at the end of some of these things. This is from a time. That time is now a while in the past, which is why I haven't gone to pick it back up yet. But I haven't UFO'd it because I figure I've already got this far. What I had planned to do was not a whole lot more than this, and so it's just sitting there until one day I decide that I want the project bag back, and I do the last little bit that I want to do. And that's sort of all of that. The floss is just from stash, and I think I know this particular one is a variegated silken colors. What was it called? Like Egyptian Nights or something like that. What I use for the rest of it, again, is just going to be stuff from stash, because I'm there will not be a ton of effort put into the rest of this, but I do want to finish it one day, so that's why it's still on my list. All right, number 20. And this is one I'm going to keep handy because I believe I will work on this tomorrow. And it's something where I've still got a ways to go, but the end is in sight. This is Freedom Motif Sampler by Shaded Stitchery. I started this on May 18th of 2024. The fabric is 40 count Duxbury linen by Fox and Rabbit. It does not have the speckling on it that you see on a lot of the images of Duxbury. And I have a small piece of Duxbury that I think was a piece I got when I was doing that order from 123 Stitch and getting small pieces. So I have a small piece that has the speckling on it where, I mean, it's not to the extent of like the grandpa's sleeve linen, but it certainly has, you know, splotches and stuff on it. This piece does not. And when I got this piece, I know I was disappointed that the fabric did not have the speckling on it. And I don't remember if I had something in mind to use the fabric for or not, but I, you know, set it aside, and then when I wanted to start this piece, I realized that this would be perfect for it, and I think it works better without the splotches on it for this particular piece. This is stitched 1/2. I have a note here that I am using all the called for floss except I've substituted Classic Colorworks Vanilla Custard, subbed for I think that's Color and Cotton Almond. I think that whenever I was placing the order for the floss, it must have been that the one color was not in stock at wherever I was purchasing the fancy flosses from, and I went with the other one instead because I wanted to have everything on hand. This is where I am at. I know I had started up in this area. I really liked, well, the water, and I like the colors of this. There's obviously a lot of symbolism in it, and, you know, kind of learning about that has been, you know, it's been a learning experience, interesting to learn things, and I'm trying to remember when I last worked on this last year. I feel like I made a chunk of progress last year. The day I am filming this, tomorrow is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is why I plan to stitch on this tomorrow and make some progress. It's a piece that I like. Sometimes when I've got other stuff working on, it kind of falls down further in the pack and I don't grab it as often, but I try for things like Martin Luther King Day or you know, Black History Month or Juneteenth to pull it back out and work on it more. And I know that with where I'm at now, I know there's one back stitching that I have to do, and there's certainly other things I need to stitch, but I'd have to look back and see kind of stitch count wise. But I know last year when I was working on this, I felt like if I could remember to keep pulling it out and get work in on it, you know, kind of the end is in sight. So tomorrow there will be progress made, and hopefully this year, whether I'm able to finish it this year or not, I at least want to make a good chunk of progress on that. And that was project number 20. And this is another one where I know I still have a chunk to do, but I want to get this done. I think I have more left to do on this than I am imagining I have left to do. This is Roladex Mourning Sampler by Bendy Stitchy. I started this on May 25th of 2024. The fabric is 40 count Graveyard Mist Linen by Lap and Loops, stitching it 1/2. The floss I think is mostly called for. I think in this pattern there were like 2 places where there was a list of floss shown, and I think the floss was slightly, the floss that was called for was slightly different on each list, and I don't remember exactly which list I followed or what I subbed for what, but that is where I am right now. I'm really looking forward to doing the willow leaves, but that's sort of one of those things where I really want to do that part, and I am saving it because I need to work more on the rest, and then that will be my reward. I can't remember when I last picked this up. I know that at some point last year I really wanted to work on it and I couldn't find it, and so I didn't get to it. I think when I last worked on it, maybe I got some of the grass down here over here and started to work on the gate. So this is something I definitely want to work on in 2026, but when I will pick it up, I am not 100% sure. I know that when I had this pattern, I had wanted to start it, and it took me a while to start it, and I ultimately decided on this Graveyard Mist fabric, and I thought that the name was fitting for the pattern as well. Okay. A little more tea. You can see all the leaves there starting to drink down past the pile of leaves. And it's certainly a lot stronger now since there are a lot of leaves in less water. Typically when I do tea like this, and this is one where it's really easy to drink around the leaves, is you just put the water in there, and then as you drink down, you just keep adding more and more water to it. So if it's too strong, add more water to it, dilute it down a bit more. And then you just keep using those leaves until the flavor is not what you want anymore. Started is at my current workplace, and I've talked about this before. I had a previous job where I had my own larger office where I had a lot of space, and it was an office that I wasn't having like customers coming in, and so I had stuff set up so that I could just brew loose leaf tea at my desk, and could have coworkers come in and have some tea with me if they wanted. And current job, I can't really be doing that, but have started bringing in more loose leaf tea to just drink grandpa style like this, in addition to the tea bags and stuff that we bring in just for convenience. But it's been nice to kind of have some fancier stuff there and enjoy tea at work, because sometimes when I have been coming home from work, it's like although I like the process of brewing the tea, and I normally do it sort of the gong fu style, where you're using a small brewing vessel and just doing short steeps and steeping, re-steeping and re-steeping. I like that process because it gets you to kind of calm down, go focus on the tea, but some days I'm not wanting to put in the time, and I just want to dump my leaves in a cup and drink it. So that's what I'm doing today. Okay. Almost through this stack. Have a few more. This, where's the card, is my other Carolyn Manning. This is Birthday Cake by Carolyn Manning. I started it on my birthday, May 28th in 2024. The fabric is 20 count white Aida, stitching 1/1 with the called for DMC. This is a little start. There's not a whole lot there. Get that closer so you can see. The colors are perfect for a birthday cake. I'll actually bring the floss ring out for this one. The colors, perfect for a birthday cake. These are not necessarily, these kind of pastel-y colors are not necessarily my preferred go-to colors, but I thought for the theme of a birthday cake, they fit quite well. And so I did this for a birthday start. I think this is the first time I did a birthday start. I then had sort of meant to work on it last year at my birthday or start something else on my birthday, and I don't think I stitched at all on my birthday. It was the I don't want to I don't want to work on anything today, and so I didn't. Because the colors and such aren't the typical colors that I go to, this is one where after I finish it, I don't know whether it's something I'd like to incorporate into a project bag or some other way of making use of the finished product that isn't putting it up on a wall, because it's not going to fit so much with my my living space. But at the same time, I like it and want to make use of it. So we'll see once I finish this, whenever that may be. And I know that this is, I forget what the size is on this, but obviously I cut a piece that was, big enough that I knew it was going to take some space. So we'll see. And yeah, the reason that I thought I might get back to this one sooner is because if I, decide to pull it out on my birthday, that may be sooner than I get to the Chameleon piece. Okay. That was WIP 22. This is WIP 23. This, I always know what it is because this is in a watermelon print bag. And this is the Free Palestine pattern by Modern Folk Embroidery, which is a free pattern that Jacob has up on his website. This is, I started this on June 20th of 2024. The fabric is a 46 count Winter Wren by Fox and a Rabbit. This is another one of those, I think, small pieces I picked up from, was this a small piece I got from 123 Stitch? I don't remember, but it's a small piece. Stitching 1/2. I'm using a selection of silken colors. I have above this was a pattern by Hib Stitches on Instagram of the Palestinian flag. That was something you could get if you donated to, there may have been a few charities, I think maybe it was PCRF, that I donated to for that. And then this is Jacob's free pattern that I am partially through. I need to get back to finishing this because unfortunately things are still awful in Palestine. And as I always do, down in the description of this video there will be a link to where you can go to find more information on donating eSIMs to help with internet connectivity for folks in Gaza. And there are obviously other ways that you can help as well. This is kind of the way that I've trying to be consistently highlighting. So look down in the description for those links. And this is yeah, so that's where I'm at on that. I think I pulled this out at some point last year and made more progress. I need to get back to it and get this finished. And that is that one. Next up, okay, got this is one where I thought maybe I had gotten farther along than I actually had. This is Stitch for Pride 2024 by D's 20 Stitches. I started this on June 21st of 2024, and that is because when this went on sale in December 2023, I did not purchase it, and there's D isn't doing a Stitch for Pride this year, but typically in the past, he puts the pattern on sale at the end of the year, and it's a stitch-along for the next year. There's a window in which you can purchase it, and then it's not available. And except there was a window kind of mid-year that he made the Stitch for Pride available, and I was watching everybody else stitch along. It was like, I want to do that, and so I purchased the pattern at that time and got started. The fabric is 40 count Fox and Rabbit oyster shell linen. I'm stitching 1/2, and I was pulling stuff from Stash. Most of the floss is most of what I was using was I was pulling some floss I had by Dying for Sass. I think the Goth Rainbow colors were the ones I was mostly pulling from, but I was just kind of grabbing from what I had around. And I got 4 months worth done here. I think this was this January? I forget which ones they were, but I got 4 months through. I think May was the next one I wanted to do, which was going to put down here, and there was a yellow I was going to use for it, and I need to do that. I was trying to, I was doing what some people were doing, and I was trying to kind of carry over a color from 1 month to make it part of the next month as well, and that's as far as I did it. I know one of these I made a mistake on, but I just went with it. And I was doing good for a while, and then I got behind. Well, I was already behind because I had started mid-year, but I got behind where I had intended to be and never went back and finished it. But I do want to finish that eventually. And that was the last one from this stack, and I have one last stack to bring in. That was WIP 24. I think I have 10 more to go through, so I will be back momentarily. All right, in the home stretch here. This next WIP is Dream Within a Dream by the Artsy Housewife. I started it on July 7th of 2024. Fabric is 46 count Panettone linen from Roxy Floss Co. I'm stitching 1/2 with the Roxy Floss color conversion. And this, I don't think I touched this last year. I still have it in the why am I blanking on the thing? I still have it in frame. That is where I am at. And in the Q-snap. I still have it in the Q-snap here. Obviously, this is significantly narrower than this Q-snap, but I wanted to have it so I could have kind of the whole thing within the frame. And I know when I was stitching on it, I was doing stuff to use my hands a little differently than I normally do when I'm stitching two-handed with stuff in a frame. And I need to get back to this, eventually cutting down the fabric, getting this into something smaller to stitch on it. But I really like how it looks. I really like this color conversion, which is why I went and snagged it when everybody was starting to stitch this pattern. But it's one of those things where you have the initial rush to work on it, and then you know, something else catches your eye and you don't get back to it. Eventually I will get this finished eventually, because this is one I do want to frame and put up when it's done. I'm going to set this down here so I don't have other stuff sitting on it. And tuck this card away. WIP 26. This is on the list of things to finish because it is close. I think I know where my floss is, but it is not in the bag. This is the Plants and Petrichor by Fine Frog Stitching. I started working on this on August 4th of 2024. It was a sale at the time I started it. I believe this fabric is the called for Witch's Garden Crafts Ada. I don't have a note of what it is. Stitching 1/1 with the called for DMC. I was doing quite good keeping up with the sal, and then something threw me off course and I didn't get back to it, but I'm this far, and if I just go ahead and do I need to put the stuff on the shelves there and fill that in and fill in like kind of the plants and stuff that are there. I don't have that much left to do, and I've left it here in this snap because I just need to finish it and I haven't gotten back to it. So this is one of the ones on my list to just put in the work, get it done, and move on. The previous sal to this one was one where I sort of learned about it when the sal was basically over, and I got everything that I needed, and within the course of like a month just plowed through it and finished it, and then was ready to be working on this, and did well at the beginning but never finished. So that is one. This is one I want to tackle this year and just do what I need to do and wrap this up instead of having this hang out mostly finished, and be able to move on. It's just the ones that I have where the end is in sight, where if I just put in the time they would be done. That's the sort of thing I want to tackle. And if I tackle those, like I said, there's, I'm not opposed to starting things this year, but I definitely want to out with the old for a few things at least before bringing the new in. There's that. Okay, next one. Fish and Ships by Long Dog. Yet another Long Dog that I have started but do not have finished. But this is one that I made significant progress on it before it got set down for other things. I will, here, let me show the whole thing a moment. That is where I am at. I've done up here and then done the entire frame. Well, yeah, I've done the frame and then started working more on the middle. Let me fold this back up so I can focus on the part up here that's done. This is, here, I'll bring this. Where's my card so I can tell you the start date? I started this August 29th of 2024. The fabric is a 32 count linen in Mermaid Lagoon by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. I am stitching this 2/2. The main color I'm using is Silks for You PR 147, and I'm using a selection of floss from Stash that is like some of the Brennan Needle speckled floss, because I had decided, you know, I was torn. I like the tone on tone of this, but I felt like there were certain things where I wanted to have a pop of color in there. And I'm a little, you know, the whale, I mean, the crab, I knew I wanted to have the crab to have like orange in it, and I think maybe there's another crab or two in there where I wanted to have the pop of color. The whale is maybe not reading quite as well as I would like on there. What I did was there were some of the things like the critters over here and part of the whale where I used the, you know, it was supposed to be just fabric showing through, but I used the Silks for You to stitch in there and make things a little clearer. And there was some stuff where if I had been thinking about it differently, I would have done some stitching to make it look like baleen in the whale's mouth, but that didn't happen. But I'm going to keep plowing ahead. This fabric was some of the first kind of hand-dyed fabric that I ordered after I got into cross-stitch, and it's 32 count, which at the time is what I thought, you know, I would be using for everything, and then I shifted to liking higher count. But I pulled this out because I had thought I wanted to do fish and chips, doing it, you know, kind of tone on tone, and I already had this fabric, even though 32 count, you know, is putting this bigger than I would, you know, ideally want. I had it. I figured I'd go ahead and use it. So I started this back in end of August 2024, and I put in a good chunk of time, and I know I'm over a quarter of the way through. I forget where I am at currently. But I made a big push, got a good start, and then it got set aside for other things. So this is definitely one I want to get back to. When exactly that will be, I'm not sure. But I figure of all the, you know, the various long dogs that I have in progress, this will probably be the one that I finish first, because I think it is the smallest of the various ones that I have started, and so eventually it will be done. And, you know, it's the things where I want to add in those pops of color. I'm just a little concerned about doing, you know, too much. I like the crab. I had planned to do the whale differently, but now having them both in there, I know there's sort of more that I want to do, but I'm concerned about doing too much, so I have to kind of figure that out as I go along. Okay. Next up is one that is definitely on my list to finish. And it won't take me that long if I just sit down and put in the time over a couple days. This is the temperature chart that I designed for 2025, because Year of the Snake, based on a snake that I had. So this is my Bandersnatch temperature chart. I started this October 20th of 2024 to get sort of the snake and the little legend with the color temperature legend down at the bottom done. And then I got January, February, March, April, partway through May, and then I have to go and get the rest of the temperatures filled in. This fabric is a 40 count silver mist linen from Fabrics by Stephanie. It was something I had in stash. And, you know, looking at this, there are sometimes I kind of wished I had chosen something different. I am not certain what I, would have chosen instead, but I figured it was something I had around. It was a neutral and would let the colors pop. And everything is just DMC. So that, there we go. And there's the chart at the bottom. So I will get around at some point to, hopefully pretty soon, picking this up, going back to look at the temperatures and, filling in for the rest of the year. And then that one will be done. And this is really something I'll want to stick in a frame and put up. And I'll show you the floss just because I still have some stuff. Let some of the stuff braided there, but yeah. And I had meant to, because when I sit down and get in the colors for the temperatures, it doesn't take that long. And I had planned to, last year, just a couple of times throughout the year, get a chunk of stuff done, and I didn't get back to it after I worked on it in May. But, it will take some time, but it shouldn't take that long once I decide to put in the effort and get it done. So that is something I want to have wrapped up this year, so I don't have it going into 2027. This is another one that I want to work on. It's one where I want to get this done, but it's not the only design that will be on this piece of fabric. This is Perky Lion by Marumi Designs. Started October 23rd, 2024. The fabric is an 18 count Aida from Banana Oil. I'm stitching 1/1 with Mo's Sail Silk in Mustard. This is where I am at. I just need to put in the time to finish getting the lion done. And then I'm trying to remember the name of the series. Is it the Magical Carpet Menagerie? But she has a series with other animals, and after I do the lion, I want to start doing some of the others on this piece of fabric. And in addition to the mustard, I also have Mo's Sail Silk in plum and pear, and I want to use those on this fabric as well. So one of those ones where every time I pick it up, I enjoy working on it. I just need to pick it up more. Okay, oh, let me put this back in here. This is This WIP is just a little over a year old. This is Multiply Kindness by Hands Across the Sea, started January 11th of 2025. The fabric is a 46 count cream and sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim. I am stitching 1/2 with the called for Averiswa 103. That's how far I am on this. I have most of the 103 that I need. When I had decided I wanted to do this, there was, I forget which store was happened to be having a sale on Averiswa, and so I ordered like everything that I could from that store. Some of the colors weren't available, and yeah, I don't have all the colors that I need. I have most of them, but I need to, and when I work on this more, I need to go back and figure out exactly what I am missing and get the rest. But I have plenty that I can do before I, need the colors that I don't have. This is the one that has the multiplication table in the middle, and I think there is some sort of a verse or text on this one that I was okay with. My thing with a lot of samplers is they have a lot of religious verses on them where I am not religious and it's not something that I want to stitch, or if it's something that I want to stitch, I would have to figure out what text I want to put in the place of that and swap stuff out, and usually these samplers are big like this one, and so although I have wanted to stitch like a sampler here or there, kind of the reproduction samplers, and I think this one is an original design, but made to kind of go with kind of the reproduction samplers that Hands Across the Sea normally does. So this is that's where I am at. I have plenty more to do. I need to get back to this, and and I will put in here, I did see that Instagram post with the generative AI image that was used back in, I think it was towards the end of 2025. I saw some of the comments that were on that post before commenting was turned off and the post ultimately deleted, and it's the sort of thing where everybody can make mistakes and learn and grow, and I just hope I don't see any more generative AI on their Instagram feed in the future. But yeah, that's where I'm at on this one. My main draw to this piece is the fact that it had a big multiplication table in it, which just seemed like something that would be kind of interesting to have in a cross-stitch piece. So I will get back to it eventually. Hopefully at some point this year I will pick it back up. But it's not something I am rushing to work on. We are near the end here. This was another one I started last year around the same time as Multiply Kindness. This is, I'm going to go ahead and, since I have the printed pattern that I spent a long time getting into Pattern Keeper, I will just sub. This is Cittlewick Green by Rosewood Manor. And I started this January 16th of 2025, so it is just over a year old at the time I am filming this. The fabric is 40 count Cyprium Newcastle linen. I'm guessing this is Picture This Plus. I don't have it noted, but I think that's what it is. Stitched 1/2, and I am using the Victoria Clayton silk conversion for this. And I am not very far. Oh, I can confirm. Yes, it is Picture This Plus. I still have the sticker on this. That's what I've done so far. Part of the alphabet and some of the flowers underneath. So I haven't done a ton, but what I have done so far, I really like how it looks. It's just one I need to, you know, kind of find a way to work it into my rotation and keep making slow but steady progress on it. It's nothing that will be finished anytime soon, but I want there to be progress, consistent progress on this. One of the ones that every time I pull it out and look at what I've done, I am happy with what I have done, and as I look at the pattern and see what it will ultimately look like, I get excited about seeing it at that point. All right, nearing the end. This is my also not finished Stitch for Pride from 2025. This one I did purchase in time. Oh, and this is by D's 20 Stitches. Again, I started this January 18th of 2025. Again, just over a year old. Yep. The fabric I am using is, and I was doing everything from stash on this. So this is 40 count Picture This Plus shadow linen that I think I had some plan in mind when I bought this fabric, and then for whatever reason that plan did not happen, and so I pulled it out to use it for this. I am stitching 1/2 using a floss from stash that is mostly dyeing for sass like I used for the 2024 Stitch for Pride, as well as some Cottage Garden thread. And I got further on this one than the previous year. I like what I've done, and I was keeping up really well for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for half the year. I kept up really well. And then something threw me off track, and I didn't get back to it, so I need to finish this. But you know, happy with what I've done, just need to go back and finish. And you know, both of these Stitch for Prides I should work on, because if I just do like a month or two during the course of the year, it's going to, you know, continue to chip away at what I have left to do and make progress, and then get them off my WIP list. This next one is one I will definitely be working on soon. It is almost a year old. This is Heart Sampler by Bad Vibes Only. I started this on Valentine's Day of 2025. The fabric is 46 count strawberry shortcake linen from Bestitch Me. Stitching this 1/2 with this is a floss from Silks for You, which is, what do I have here? PR 194, PR 141, CM 001, PR 006, and DMC Ecru. And I still have a strand of floss in there. I've, maybe a little hard to see there, but I've got kind of the upper corner mostly done. I made made good progress when I first started it, and then I think with the, well, like the stitch along and some other things I was working on, which sort of pulled me away from this, and I didn't get back to it. I really kind of like what I ended up choosing for the fabric and the floss, so I think I'm going to be happy with how everything looks at the end. I just need to get back to working on it, which I intend to do this year, and make more of a dent. I certainly don't think I'm going to finish this year, but I need to work on it some more. And I think this is the sort of thing that when I pick it back up and work on it again, I'm going to be excited about it all over again. Put that back in, this back in, and we are now to the final WIP. And where am I at? 2 hours and 16 minutes on the camera, but I know that there's a portion of that will be cut out during editing. So maybe it'll be around 2-ish hours here. Okay, final WIP. And this is one that hopefully I will get done this year. I will hold up the whole thing. This is Disagree by Rebel Stitcher Designs. I started this on March 19th, 2025. The fabric is once again from Banana Oil. This is an 18 count Aida, stitching 1/1, and the floss that I am using is Roxy Floss Hussy and Roxy Floss Cheshire. And this was one when I saw last year that this pattern was going to be available at Nashville Needlework Market. I ordered the pattern, and I think I already had this fabric and knew that I'd had the floss that I had got when I had placed, an order from Evertote, and decided I would do a tone on tone, and that's where I'm at. I need to finish going across the top and then do the motifs down the side over here and then across the bottom, and I will be done. So I've got a ways to go still, but I think I can have this done this year. And I had, within the last few months, I had got a nice portion of it done, and then had sort of reached a point where I wanted to work on some other things. I did pick this one up earlier this month and get, I think, maybe a couple hundred stitches in since I last showed it on there. So the 3 projects that I worked on since my last Flosstube was finishing Julbocken, getting a little bit more stitching into this one, and then the progress that I made on All Treats, No Tricks. So didn't work on a ton of projects this month, but I got kind of more stitching in than I had been in the last couple of months, so that was progress. And obviously with this video is pulling out everything for this video and going through everything is maybe the most work I have put into cross stitch in a number of months as well. But it's good to go through, remind myself what I have and what I need to work on, what things I want to get knocked off my list entirely, as well as what things I want to make a significant dent in this year. So that is a total of 34 WIPs, which had been 35, but then I finished Julbocken. The only thing that I didn't have on this list and show is the little perforated paper, the frog egg thing that I still have partially done. I don't know what it is, but anytime the few perforated paper things I have worked on, I start out all gung-ho and then my enthusiasm takes a dive. So I need to get back to that, but I'm not officially counting it as a WIP. We'll see what happens with it. But yeah, what do I have here? Let's look back. What things I want to get off of my list completely and finish in 2026. Take a sip here. All right. Reflections on a Grecian Urn. Spirits of the Dead. All treats, no tricks. My temperature chart. Perky Lion, since that one's small as well. And even though it's bigger, probably disagree. There's other ones like, you know, the plants and Petrichor I didn't say. I don't think. So is that 7 that I want off? Yeah, there's a number I would just like to get done and off the list, and maybe more than that, but those are the ones that just sort of, you know, kind of jump out as things that are doable and ones to just get done and on. And then there's, you know, like I said, plenty of things that I would like to start as well, but you know, and I certainly may, but because for me it was reaching the point where I was starting to feel overwhelmed, where the progress I was making on each piece was not enough for me to be kind of happy about, as far as moving the old ones off the list and bringing in new. So I think, you know, that's a nice chunk that I should be able to clear off the list, and hopefully keep my total number of WIPs around this amount or smaller. So I would say, I mean, if I'm at 34 now, I certainly, at least at this time, I don't think I'd be happy about my number of WIPs climbing over 40, but hopefully I will have even less than this come the next time I do a WIP parade, and hopefully have some nice finishes. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. See you in February, and hopefully in that video, maybe I'll have a finish to share, but hopefully I will have progress on at least Freedom Motif Sampler, because I should be working on that both tomorrow as well as in February for Black History Month, and also the Heart Sampler, since I want to work on that for February as well, and maybe there'll be some other things thrown in there too. All right. Thank you for being here for however long this video was. Hopefully you got in some good stitching yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.